We've got six different stories to share with you guys from outside the UK. It's time for an episode of the World's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the World's Newsround, where I cover various stories from outside the UK. The date and time of this recording is Thursday the 15th of August at just around 2 p.m. UK time. And we start here with this one from CNN, guys. With more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in the 10 months of war, the health ministry has said. So we knew it was coming up to that mark of 40,000 lives being lost. And the health ministry has confirmed this. It is entirely possible that by the time you guys watch this as well, that number will have most likely to have risen as well. The chances of, by the time you guys seen this to me recording it, of any chance of being a ceasefire is very, very limited. I don't expect any kind of talks to materialize at all. Now, for those who watched the Snowflake Watch will know exactly who this individual is. This is the man, a father who went to get these birth certificates for his newborn twins, and then he received a phone call that his children were killed along with their mother and grandmother. He was only a day or two. He never really got to spend a lot of time with them. But understandably, he is heartbroken, as is countless many others inside the Gaza Strip who are relentlessly dying. But Israel will tell you that all of this is perfectly justified. They will say that all the losses of life is perfectly justified. That they're all Hamas, that they're all terrorists, that they're all criminals. This is the picture that they will always want to paint. But Israel will tell you this is perfectly justified. And don't get me wrong, any Israelis' losses of life from what Hamas did was atrocious, and the lives that were lost by that October 7th attack has been atrocious. And it's terrible that Israeli soldiers have died as a result of this conflict as well. But we're talking about 40,000 Palestinians here. And you're not going to come on my channel and tell me that all 40,000 people who have died have all been Hamas. It's just not. It's just not. I've literally seen videos of Palestinian people criticizing Hamas for what they've done as well. This conflict is hurting everyone. It really, really is. And it's incredibly tragic. So more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since Israel launched its war against Hamas. The health ministry in the enclave said Thursday yet another dark milestone in a 10-month-old conflict. The ministry said 40 people had died in Gaza during the past 24 hours, taking the total number of deaths since October 7th to 40,005. About 1 in every 55 people in the enclave, more than 92,401, have been injured. The health ministry does not distinguish between combatants and civilians in its figures, but said most of the deaths are women and children. Israel said last month it had killed more than 14,000 combatants in Gaza since the start of the war. CNN cannot independently verify the ministry's numbers. Yeah, we can't be absolutely sure either way. The soaring figure gives a window into the deadly suffering, malnutrition and volatility in Gaza after 10 months of conflict. And the milestone has been passed at a particularly unprecedented point of the conflict. A new round of ceasefire talks are due to begin on Thursday. That's the time of this recording. After the killing of senior figures in Hamas and the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah upended the leadership of both organizations and made the negotiations appear precarious. The news follows an especially deadly weekend for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. At least 93 people were killed overnight into Saturday when an Israeli strike hit a school and a mosque in the eastern part of Gaza City where displaced people were sheltering. According to local officials, the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, confirmed to CNN they hit the compound, saying its air force precisely struck Hamas terrorists operating within a Hamas command and control embedded in the building. Israeli military officials have said they tried to minimize harm to civilians in Gaza and that Hamas bears the blame for using civilians as human shields. Now, there has been one or two. I have seen one or two. I have not seen I have not seen videos confirming this, that they have used them as human shields. But it is entirely possible they may be as well. But considering how much lack of evidence the Israeli military are showing to the world, it's very hard for me to believe anything that they say. The Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, confirmed to CNN that it hit a compound and said that at least 19 Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists were eliminated in the strike. The strike was almost universally condemned, including by some of Israel's closest allies. Israel launched its war against Hamas after the militant group crossed the border on October the 7th attacks, which killed more than 1,200 Israelis and killed and taken 250 hostages, according to Israeli authorities. More than 100 of those hostages remain in Gaza, their families back home pleading for a breakthrough to secure their safe return. Hopes for a hostage for ceasefire agreement seem to diminish in recent weeks after Israel launched a series of strikes against senior figures in Hamas and Hezbollah, which has been sparred with Israel on a near daily basis since October in solidarity with Hamas. But Egyptian and Qatari mediators have conveyed to Israeli officials in recent days that Yahya Sinwar, the new head of its political bureau following the assassination of Ismail Hamid in Tehran, wants a ceasefire deal. With Israeli sources familiar with the matter said, Israel said it would send a delegation to the talks. Hamas, however, said that it will not participate in the talks on Thursday, but is willing to speak to mediators afterwards if there are developments or a serious response from Israel, a source told CNN. There will not be. Hamas have already said, and I've covered this on the Snowflake Watch anyway, Hamas, they are a terrorist organisation. What they did was absolutely atrocious, and they should pay for their crimes. But also you have to understand, what's the point of them going to these talks when Netanyahu and Israel just continue to delay? They just keep delaying things, guys. They're not actually serious about a ceasefire. Israel are not serious about ceasefire. They're just saying it just to appease. They're just saying that they're looking to get around the table just to appease America more than anyone. If America had any balls, it would do more to punish Israel for not pushing for a ceasefire. But we know they won't. A hardliner and, according to Israel, one of the masterminds behind the deadly October 7th attack, Sinwar was previously believed to be dismissive of the ceasefire and hostage release deal. Hamas said Sunday that it asked mediators to implement a ceasefire based on previous ceasefire talks, as those put forward by US President Joe Biden and the UN Security Council back in July. International pressure has intensified for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach an agreement with Hamas. A drumbeat of Western criticism of Netanyahu's actions has grown louder in recent weeks, with the election of a Labour government in the United Kingdom and the confirmation of US Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee for November's presidential election. Harris' comments on Gaza signal a shift in tone from Biden's steady support of Israel. I don't expect Kamala to change things at all. Harris said on Saturday, not far too many civilians have been killed in Gaza, saying a deal needs to be done now. And Netanyahu thanks anger from some quarters at home. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum, a powerful voice in Israel, has for months repeatedly called on Israel and Hamas to finalise a hostage and ceasefire deal. A deal is the only path to bring all hostages home. Time is running out. Hostages have no more to space, and a deal must be signed now, the forum said in a statement last week. A ceasefire deal will provide a reprieve for the approximate 2.2 million Palestinians who have been living in nightmarish conditions in Gaza. Everyone living in Gaza has been displaced in the conflicts, with many people forced to flee repeatedly as the Israeli military operation expands, often places into previously said had been cleared of Hamas fighters. In recent days, some 75,000 people southwest Gaza after Israeli evacuation orders were issued, and according to the United Nations Relief and Agency Workers for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA chief, Felipe Lazzaretti, less than a sixth of the area of Gaza is not under Israeli evacuation orders, he has said late last month. And quite often people have just a few hours to pack whatever they can and start all over, mostly on foot or on a crowded donkey cart for those who can afford it, he said on Sunday on social media platform X. Earlier this week, Fakar Stoltuk, the Gaza director for Aid Group Medical Aid for Palestinians, said impending milestones mean that 40,000 families are grieving and their hearts are broken. Many people are losing hope and some are losing faith, but mostly people are losing trust in the international community. They are angry, disappointed, and believe the world has failed them and let them down, she said in a statement. I've said this already, that the world has let them down. And they have let them down. 40,000. Continues to rise, continues the world, does nothing as the world just keeps turning. and these people continue to suffer and continue to die, and no one's doing anything about it. And Israel are claiming that what they're doing, their actions are justified, when I don't believe that their actions are justified. But I think Israel, I've come long past to come to the conclusion that Israel have gone way too far with their actions. The amount of evidence has been proven that. The comments from ministers and from people from within Israel speaks for volumes to the kind of people that they are as well. Their actions and their words speak for themselves. And the tones that some of these ministers have said a lot. And yet, here we are, guys, still, after 10 months, and still no ceasefire. No permanent ceasefire, no guns being put down at all. And the thing is that what people need to understand is that Netanyahu, I'm really gonna push myself out there with this one. Netanyahu doesn't give a damn about the hostages. He doesn't care about the hostages. He doesn't care about them. The only thing he cares about is holding on to the power that he has. That's his main priority. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about those people. If he cared about those people, he would have gotten them out. He would have got the ceasefire and gotten those hostages released. But no, he wants to drag this war out. He wants to drag this war out because the longer it drags out, the more problems that occur in the West, the more settlements that they can claim in the West Bank at the hands of Palestinians as well. The more that they can punish Palestinians as well. It's a very one-sided, this whole conversation, guys. And we got to keep calling it out for what it is. So, next article I got for you guys is from Al Jazeera. This one here. So, Russia has sentenced a US dual citizen to 12 years for treason. Supporters said she donated about $50 to charity, but investigators accuse her of helping Ukraine buy weapons. This story, this story seems like a folly one, and it just seems like Russia are just sentencing anyone and anyone. If anyone has any connections to US, if you are a US dual citizen, if you have any connections to America and you're living in Russia, do not be surprised if you get apprehended and arrested now. Just don't be surprised at this point. Like, you're asking for trouble if you do. It's just not worth being in the country. With 12 years in prison, like, it's ridiculous. So what is this actually about? So a court in Russia has sentenced a US-Russian dual national, Kaziza Kalina, to 12 years in prison after finding her guilty of treason for donating money to a charity supporting Ukraine. The Severodonetsk Regional Court of the Ural city of Yangenburg returned its verdict on Thursday, sending the 32-year-old ballet dancer and spa worker who pleaded guilty last week at a closed trial to a general regime colony. The federal security system has accused Catalina of collecting money for a Ukrainian organization, and that was used to purchase tactical medical supplies, equipment, and weapons and ammunition for the Ukrainian armed forces. Her supporters said she had donated a mere $51.80 from Run for Ukraine, a New York-based charity that supports humanitarian aid to children and elderly people in Ukraine. The charity has denied it approves any military support to Ukraine. Karolina was born in Russia and immigrated to the United States in 2012, receiving American citizenship in 2021. A resident in Los Angeles, she was arrested by the FSB after flying to Russia to visit her family in Yangenburg at the start of the year. You went to Russia you went at the start of this year. Oh my God, what were you? What on earth was you thinking? She appeared in court on Thursday in a white sweatsuit and blue jeans, sitting calmly in the glass courtroom cage. The US has accused Russia of arresting its citizens on baseless charges to use them as bargaining chips to secure the release of Russian convicted abroad. Karolina's sentence comes just over 2 weeks after the Russians freed the Wall Street journalist reporter Evan Gershkovich, the former Marine Paul Willigan, and 14 others in its biggest prison swap with the West since the Cold War. On Wednesday, an American man accused of violence against a Russian law enforcement officer in Moscow was sentenced to 15 days in custody for hooliganism. I'm just saying this now. If you are a British citizen, if you are an American citizen, do not go to Russia. Stay away from the country. Like, you can be arrested for no reason whatsoever. They can make up a story and have you arrested for that. Don't go to the country. If you have relatives there, just don't. It's not worth the risk. It really, really is not worth the risk. It really, really is not. It's not worth the risk. I cannot stress this enough. Like, I would love to one day go to Russia. But, like, I can see myself going there and visiting and being arrested just for things that I've said here on YouTube. You know, free speech and all. I'll be accused of propaganda for Ukraine and the West. That's what I'd be accused of if I set foot in that country. And she's a dual US citizen. Like, if you are, I'm telling you, if you are an American citizen, if you are a British citizen, get out of Russia if you're already in Russia. And don't visit the goddamn country while they're at war. You're just asking to get arrested. You really are. They will, because that's exactly what they said in the article here. They will take you in, make up a story on you, have you arrested, courted, all that kind of stuff. And then they will use you as bargaining to get you out. And you could be in there for years. Maybe for years you could be locked up. For doing absolutely nothing wrong. All because of you being British or American or anything like that. They will make up a story to put you in prison. Don't go to Russia. Just don't go there. It's too dangerous. It's not worth the risk. Just don't. It's just not worth it. And I'm sorry, but a part of me has sympathy for her, but a part of me doesn't have sympathy for her because she knew the risk she was taking. Because she is a dual US Russian citizen, because she has citizenship of the United States, that puts her at risk. Just shouldn't have done it. She shouldn't have done. Let's move on. So the next one I've got for you guys is in Sudan. It's not really much to do with the fighting, but but this story is obviously going to compound basically compound already things that are horrible enough in Sudan. So at least 68 people have been killed in flooding as the rain worsens Sudan's plight. About 27,000 people displaced by the heaviest rainfall since 2019 in a country that's already hit by civil war and famine. This is on Wednesday, by the way. This is on Wednesday. So you're seeing this on Sunday. So you're already... So as if famine is not bad enough for them in there. When it comes to them not getting aid because they're the RSF, the Rapid Support Force, are not allowing it in. With this civil war that's going on, where innocent lives are lost. As if that's not just as add-on compounding it. You have a flooding that's happening here. And what's being done to help people with this flooding? Absolutely nothing, because nobody will go near it because they may get shot by the civil war that's going on. So once again, more innocent lives are being lost here. Absolutely, absolutely bloody horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And I saw a story. I didn't want to cover it here on the World Newsround, but I saw a story where they've started to negotiate. They're supposed to be starting negotiation talks today in Sudan for the mediating talks between the two sides, and one side has not turned up for the negotiations. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, any kind of peace talks is looking very unlikely. So heavy rain in Sudan has killed dozens of people, compounding hardship in a country that is already facing multiple crises. At least 68 people have been killed in Sudan as a result of the rains that have plagued different parts of the country this year, the Interior Minister has said. The downpours, the heaviest recorded since 2019, have affected the western, northern and eastern parts of the country, flooding neighbourhoods and destroying houses, farms and infrastructure. About 27,000 people have been displaced since June as a result of the flooding, according to the United Nations. In the people of Rokio in the Jabal Morana region of West Darfur State, at least 12 people were killed. Abdullah Hassan Adam, a traditional leader in the area, said, "Normally in Jabal Mara we don't have floods. It rains a lot, but the water passes by. This year it's different." So it's entirely possible that climate change may have been the reason why they've had a flood here when they don't normally have them. He told the guy in there found bodies of 9 people, but 3 were still missing. Jabal Mara is a farming region, and Adam said he was worried that the flooding would reduce production. Last year we didn't produce much as a result of lacking of rain and because of the fighting. But this year we cannot produce as a result of the floods. It will cause famine. The price of everything went 3 times everything went 3 times higher. The inflation is, they just can't afford to buy anything. Can't buy anything in Sudan. It's just too much for people. Nearly 50,000 families live in Jabal Mara, among them thousands of displaced people who moved from other areas because of fighting that started last year between the Sudanese armies and the paramilitary rapid support forces, which have had devastating effects. Around 16,000 people have been killed in the civil war, which has created the world's largest displacement crisis, with millions displaced in and outside the country. International rights groups have accused the warring parties of mass rape and other atrocities. The conflict has also left half the population in a state of food insecurity and many pushed into starvation. The rains have exacerbated difficulties caused by the fighting and delivering aid. And earlier this month, organisations that monitor world hunger declared famine at the displacement camp outside El Fashir and the capital Darfur. Oloan Beskabi, a regional director of the Middle East and North Africa in the International Organisation of Migration, said the combination of famine, flooding and other challenges have worsened Sudan's international humanitarian crisis to catastrophic, cataclysmic breaking point. Without an immediate, massive, coordinated global response, we risk witnessing tens of thousands of preventable deaths in the coming months, he said. The US is leading a push to end Sudan's almost 16-month conflict through mediation, but neither warring parties confirmed participation in the ceasefire talks scheduled for Wednesday in Switzerland. And yeah, one of them didn't turn up for the talks. As I said, one of them did not turn up for the talks. So yeah, that's kind of compound it. So any talk of a ceasefire is pretty much meh, which I hate, because it's not right that people should suffer as a result of it. But hey ho, guys, that's the situation, unfortunately, that they are in Sudan, and extremely frustrating to say the least. So guys, I've got a couple more articles for you guys here on the World's Newsround. If you're finding this informative, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further, financially support me, leaving a super chat will also be greatly appreciated, or any gifted memberships if you want to do so. If you can't financially support me, those are the best. Those are the non-financial ways to do it. Hitting the like, sharing, subscribing, commenting on my videos, those are the best ways you can support me if you can't do it in a financial way. And thank you to everyone and anyone who has done so. It's greatly appreciated. Even if you're just watching, I do appreciate you giving your time for this content, guys. So I got a bit of a funny video, guys, so to break things up a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, with the headline from Foil and Arms YouTube channel called "Making Friends as an Adult Can Be Really, Really Hard."
Since you guys got married, I don't really see you anymore, and I just realised I think it's time for me to make some more friends.
Yeah.
But it is so difficult to make friends as an adult.
So?
Well, I was in the supermarket, like at the checkout last week. I got chatting to this woman that we both liked the same biscuits, which I thought was a good start, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I asked her, would she like to be my friend? She calls me a creep, moves to a different queue.
You can't really ask a random or just be a friend like that.
No. Well, why not? I mean, I once made friends with a guy because we both liked the colour blue.
Oh, when you were 5?
Oh yeah, oh man, it was just so much easier when we were kids, you know? The guy across the road from me, we had nothing in common. He was my best friend. Why? Because he lived across the road.
Well, why don't you look him up?
He died. He's
What?
dead. Well, no, he's got kids.
Oh.
Right.
Okay, well maybe it just gets more complex as you get older.
Yeah, everyone's just so closed off. It's like they hit their 30s and they've decided they've met everyone that's going to be at their funeral.
So what did you do?
Well, I kind of thought, how do people make friends these days? You know, there's probably an app, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I download this friendship app. for people, like-minded people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm chatting to this girl. It's going well, yeah. And judging from the emojis in her profile, she has a healthy appetite for fruit and veg, which, as a nutritionist, I mean, that's perfect for me. Turns out she has a healthy appetite for something completely different.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
I saw that coming.
So I thought from then on, I'd be very clear about my intentions, so there could be no misunderstandings.
Okay.
So I'm talking to this guy, Paul. Straight up, I'm like, would you like to be my friend?
Okay.
He says yes. So I said, you want to watch Netflix and hang out? He invites me over to his place. We're getting on great. The vibes are there. With so much in common. It's really good. And that's when I start to realise I haven't seen a TV.
Oh, okay.
Next thing I know,
Okay, so what was the name of the app you were using?
Oh, it's that one there.
Okay. Fun, friendship, and maybe more.
Yeah.
What did you think the maybe more stood for?
Hill walking? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it actually sounds.
Yeah, I figured that out eventually. I mean, just
good.
after a few more misunderstandings. So I just thought I had to change my tack. So I saw this personal ad for lonely housewife seeking company. I thought, she's married, that's gotta be safe, right? She opens the door wearing a nightie holding a whip.
What?
Whip.
So, what did you do?
Well, I got her to put on her dressing gown and we played PlayStation, but it was it was such an awkward 3 hours.
Oh my god, yes, it sounds like it.
All I want to do is just go for dinner with somebody, anybody, and have a proper conversation, you know?
Yeah, wish you could help.
So I hired an escort.
What?
I don't know if you guys knew this, but escorts are actually...
Yes!
Yeah.
You knew that?
Yeah,
Yes.
everyone knows that.
Well, maybe that's on me then, because I didn't know that. So.
Well, the whole online world is a little bit geared towards that end of things,
Yeah.
You want to make real friends, you gotta get out there, join a social club, theatre, sport, dance.
Funny you should say that, yeah? Because I joined this group for what I thought was for people who have an appreciation of swing dance. Turns out, it's just more of the same. I mean, it's just wall-to-wall sex. Everywhere, you're not even looking for it. There it is, in your face. Hey, wanna be friends? I wanna... it's just... everything is just so depraved. We've just lost so much. What do you guys think?
I think I wish I was single.
Yeah.
Yeah, making friends as an adult can be hard. It depends where you're going with it. And he was not looking in the right places, if I'm honest, guys. Was not looking in the right places for them. I would not recommend, what he's going in. Would not recommend the websites that and the stuff that he was looking at, guys. But that's just me. That's just me. What you do is your own opinion, your own decisions. What do you guys honestly think? Let me ask the group behind me, the gang behind me. Do you guys think it's okay? Yeah. Pingu says, "What's the app called again?" I don't know. I can't remember. I forgot the app's name already. Ollie thinks he's a weirdo, which yeah, it's like Tim Walsh would say. These guys are just weird. Right, so next one I've got for you guys is a piece from the New York Times. It's a nice, interesting piece here from them. It's regarding obviously the latest developments, obviously in the war in Ukraine. Obviously, like I said, this was recorded on Thursday to remind you people. The headline is Ukraine's incursion into Russia flips the script on Putin. The reality of the 130,000 displaced Russians and a chaotic official response may begin to puncture the official line that Russia is steadily heading towards victory. Yeah, so the premise has always been that, before this incursion, and I've been covering the conflict, but when I started hearing about this, I was like, what? And but this has been an absolute a great steal from Ukraine, because this really caught Russia with their pants down. It literally did, because they were not expecting an incursion, and now they have an incursion. They're like, oh, yeah. So they were not expecting this. They were thinking that that because it's all in Ukraine's territory, that they would never step foot in Russia. And looking at this now, obviously time will tell how far they will go, how much of the line they will push inside Russia territory. But I think this is justified for them, and they need to show them that, hey, we're going to push as much territory as we can, unless you let off on the front line. I do think that Russia will pull some forces from Ukraine from the Donbass region, from the Donetsk region, to try and push back against Ukraine's incursion. But at the same time as well, this incursion also leaves, instead of these forces being on the front lines where they should be, they're actually in this incursion instead. Now, one report I saw from the Association Press said up to, I think it was on was up to 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers could be involved, which is quite a significant amount of soldiers to be involved in this. But this is obviously not a very good image for Putin, especially if they come to the end of the year and, number one, they don't secure the Donetsk region, which is what they want, which is what Putin wants before the end of the year. And number two, Ukraine continues to hold a firm grip inside Russian territory. That would be incredibly bad for them. But it also means as well is that it could open up. It means that they could do incursions in other places as well. So let's read into their piece, guys. So, families fleeing Ukrainian troops sought shelter from strangers. Russian parents feared that their children might be sent into battle for the first time. In a televised crisis meeting back on Monday, President Vladimir Putin of Russia flipped to be a white legal pad, reading from handwritten notes suggesting that his aides did not have the time to type up a speech for him as they usually do. Ukraine's surprise incursion into the silver of Russian Kursk region last week had not shifted the overall course of the war, but it has already struck blows well beyond the few hundred square miles of Russia that Ukraine now controls. It has thrust a Russian government and society that has largely adopted into war into a new phase of improvisation and uncertainty. Mr. Putin has said nothing about the incursion since meeting with security and regional officials. Tense gathering in which the president at one point berated the Kursk governor for revealing the depth and the breadth of Ukraine's advances into Russia. Near the border, where authorities say more than 130,000 people have fled or evacuated, regional officials appear unprepared for the crisis, prompting grassroots initiatives to jump in. Yeah, the reason that he berated him is because they don't want knowing that Russia is on the back foot in any way, shape, or form. They don't want this being highlighted to the Russian people. That's what he doesn't want. But they're gonna hear about it one way or another. The opposition-minded politicians, including some of the few remaining inside Russia. Ukraine's incursions offer a rare chance to puncture the Kremlin's narrative that Russia is steadily heading towards victory. Even if it was far from certain that Russia would blame Mr. Putin for their ills, one opposition figure, Lev Stromberg in the western city of Pskov, compared the state of Russian society to magma gathering beneath a volcano, in which it was unclear when or how it would burst to the surface. Current events are, of course, intensifying the crisis, Mr. Stromberg said in a phone interview. Though we don't really know where and how this energy of dissatisfaction will go. In the city of Kursk, about 50 miles from the border where Ukraine invaded, the politicians Yakolenko described meeting people at the shelter who were so disorientated by having to flee that they hoped that this would be all some kind of dream. They're in a shelter. This is Limarika Balarika, 66, with her son Nikolai, 43, both from Sulawishka, Russia, in a shelter in Kursk because of, obviously, the incursion. Ms. Dostovia, in a phone interview, said one woman told her she had been at the shelter at the university dormitory since the first day of the war. It turned out she was referring to the start of the Ukraine's incursion last week. The first day of the war. So perhaps they won't want by being fully informed. So what was happening before then? Ms. Dolova said and replied, before then we were just living our lives. Yeah. Do you know what as well? Ukrainians were just living their lives as well. And then what happened? Russia invaded their territory. Just saying. Ms. Donovan, a journalist tried to run against Mr. Putin in Russia's presidential election this year on an anti-war platform, but was barred from the ballot. Now she's spearheading a volunteer effort to aid displaced Kursk residents while warning that the embarrassment of Ukraine's incursion cannot be expected to leak to political change in Russia because very few people would dare to speak out. Yeah, no one's going to speak out. They speak out. If you speak out against Putin on this, you will disappear. You will disappear, and you know you will disappear. They're not going to speak out. Silence is salvation, she said. Shortly after, an air raid siren walled in the background. We live accordingly to Orwell. To Russians opposing the war, helping people who are fleeing the fighting has become one way of feel as if they are taking action without risking arrest. Some post on the social messaging app Telegram offering their homes to the displaced. In the city of Orwell, about 80 miles north of Kuskus, a tailor named Antiskia 36 said that she's helping find housing for 2 families. When you live in a nightmare, it's really important to see that there are people around you who are helping, she said, who ask for their lanes to be withheld for their safety. It helps you not to go crazy. Still, there were signs of public jitters stemming from uncertainty over the involvement of young conscripts in the fighting. Since the start of the war, Mr. Putin has pledged that conscripts, Russian men as young as 18, are required to serve in the military for a year and would not be sent into Ukrainian war zone, but battles on Russian territory would be a different matter. And an exiled Russian investigation news outlet, Important Stories, reported on Wednesday they had identified 22 conscripted soldiers who had gone missing in Kuskus. Yeah, so it's entirely possible that those people who were forced into conscriptions, young Russian men who were forced in conscriptions against their will, were probably there. And if you hear noise in the background, don't worry, it's just next door neighbours. It's entirely possible that those people who were forced against their will to be conscripted into Russian military and probably were there on Kuskus, but on the border, just protecting the border, not doing anything, not going into the war zone or anything. And then Ukrainian forces come driving into their territory like that. Some of them rather than captured were killed. Yeah, that's pretty shit if you tell me. Conscripts in Kursk who have retreated from the border after Ukraine's attack are now being sent to the defense of Kursk again, said Gregory Selin, head of an organization that helps Russians seeking to avoid military service. He said his group, Elitism Get Lost, as it's called, have received more than 20 appeals for help from conscripts or their relatives. The use of conscripts is especially sensitive for Mr. Putin because their families could form a potent anti-war force, as they did during the Soviet Union war in Afghanistan in the 1980s. And Russia's war in Chechnya in the 1990s. In Ukraine, by contrast, Russian forces have mainly been made up of well-paid contract soldiers whose families receive large payments if the men die, as well as prisoners who have been promised freedom if they survive. Beyond the potential involvement of conscripts, analysts predicted that the efforts to drive Ukrainian troops out of Kuskus could eventually hinder Russia's offensive in eastern Ukraine. Ruslan Proskus, a director of the security research group KAST, based in Moscow, said the need to shift some of the Russian invasion forces to Kuskus could in turn threaten Russia's strategy of a slow-moving advances towards the front line in Ukraine. The first days of the Ukrainian operation in the Kursk region should be addressed as very successful, although its ultimate goals remain unclear. Mr. Polak said, in moral terms, the Russian Federation has taken a powerful blow. Russia retains an advance in war in terms of personnel and domestic resources, but Ukraine's incursion underlines Kiev's ability to use its nimble forces and Western weaponry to steal some of Russia's initiatives. In the televised meeting on Monday, Mr. Putin blamed the West for fighting us with the hands of the Ukrainians, repeating his frequent description of the war, which he started with a fully fledged invasion as a proxy campaign against Russia by the West. State television has continued to play down the crisis, treating it as a national disaster or a terrorist attack. Russian forces are driving the enemy out of the land. The anchor on the primetime newscast on Channel 1 atoned on Tuesday, adding that the main task now is to help civilian victims. So this is displaced Russians in a shelter here as well. They are, let me be clear, they are innocent in this just as Ukrainian civilians. But I have less sympathy for them because Ukrainians have been suffering for many years now, whereas they have only just had it for more than just a week or so. But on Telegram, popular pro-war bloggers have criticised Russia's officials for hiding the scale of the problem. One noted dryly that despite the Russian Defense Ministry regularly reporting claiming hundreds of destroyed Ukrainian soldiers, the enemy reported to be killed, nevertheless is continuing to capture our territories. Amid the mixed messaging from the war supporters on television and online, analysts predict that the members of the Russian public could respond either by rallying around a flag over the shock of the incursion or by criticising the state for failing to protect them. Alexei Malarenko, an opposition activist based in Moscow, who studies Russian public opinion, said the previous Ukrainian attacks on the Russian border regions have done more to promote pro-war opinions, But this time he added a sense of confusion in the wake of the incursion could cut into Kremlin's message that everything is going well, that we are winning. Yeah, this message is not going to work here now. They can't be saying that if they're losing territory. This screw up very much breaks the propaganda narrative, said Mr. Malenko, the co-founder of the research project Chronicles, which have been polling Russians in recent months. Mr. Putin has been mummed on how he plans to respond, other than declaring in his meeting on Monday that re-establishing control of the Kursk region was a priority. Some in Russia believe they expect Mr. Putin to strike back in some unexpected form of his own, further escalating the violence of the war. That red line seems to be untouchable has been erased, Mr. Skolberg, the opposition politician, said, referring to Ukraine's foray into Russian territory. Now Putin has a reason to think about what line he should cross. The question is how far is he going to, is what that line's going to be. I don't know if Russia are going to bombard the area, if they're going to just lay waste to Kursk's region. I don't think they will do that. I don't think they will. They may do. He may turn around and say level it all to get those Ukrainians out. They may go that far. Obviously, they can do it in Ukraine because he obviously doesn't care inside Ukraine and Ukrainian controlled territory. But this is their land they're talking about here. So it does raise some eyebrows. But many different maps are picturing different schemes of what the situation really is, guys. But of course, I will continue to cover as much as I possibly can on this conflict for you guys. There will be plenty more of this to talk about as time passes. But it's when the real Russian forces turn up and stop the pushing is when things will get really interesting. So guys, before I've got 2 more articles for you guys. This one here I've got is from the Associated Press. Just a small piece on what's happening over in America. So the Kamala Harris campaign's new $90 million in battleground ads in August aims to sharpen the contrast with Trump. So at the moment, the most polls are indicating that Kamala is winning in most states, in most places at the moment, in terms of polling. But obviously, there's still several months before the US election. There is, of course, the debate that's going to be happening in a few months' time as well, the first debate between the two. There'll obviously be the debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Wells. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I need to check that to confirm that. But the ads have been very good from the Harris campaign. Trump has stumbled and stepped over himself quite a few times. He has been badly exposed by many, many times. I mean, he has his hardcore base. There's no question about that. But Harris has been on fire pretty much ever since she's been declared the actual nominee over Joe Biden, as Joe Biden steps aside. It has been a very good revive for the Democratic Party. But when is this wave going to endeavor is the question, because we've had many, many things going in their way, but now, when is Trump going to be the face of it? Trump has tried to be like once again be the main talking point in this, and he kind of shot himself. And I really have to say he's, I've covered it already extensively, but his talk with Elon Musk was just so much nonsense. It was just ramble. That's all he had. And Elon Musk was just didn't even making conversation, just agreeing with everything it was. It was just not only that, it was delayed as well, and it was just like. But regardless, as someone sitting on the outside, there are still Americans who are still going to vote for Trump regardless. But there are still some Americans who still do not know what they want to do and where they want to cast their vote. So ads to try and sharpen the contrast with Trump may help tip the tide in the election. So Kamala Harris's presidential campaign is launching a $90 million advertising effort over the next 3 weeks to introduce the Democrats to voters and sharpen the contrast between Republican Donald Trump. The media buy marks her campaign's largest investment in messaging to voters, with just 2.5 months until Election Day in November. And it comes on the heels of a $50 million worth of ad books last month, shortly after Harris replaced President Joe Biden at the top of the party's ticket. Harris's campaign is buoyant by a rush of fundraising since the switch, and is now moving to spend money in an effort to counter what has been overwhelmingly spending by Trump and his allies in the days after Biden dropped out. Harris's team said the ad campaign will focus on Vice President's personal narrative, her career as a prosecutor in California, her commitment to standing up to powerful interests, and in contrast to what terms Trump's dangerous extreme agenda. The ad buy will reach 7 battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and expand the Harris team, spreading to smaller markets they have not yet reached, such as Marquee, Wisconsin, and Area, Pennsylvania. The campaign said it's targeting its spending at programs watched by the voters they are looking to motivate to the polls, including The Bachelorettes, The Big Brother, The Daily Show, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, and The Simpsons. This is good stuff here, obviously, when it's spending at programs that will help promote and highlight that as well. That's very good stuff there. The Harris campaign said it raised $310 million in July and entered August with $377 million on hand. The campaign's principal deputy manager, Christine Fox, said the more that voters learn about Harris, the more they will come to understand that she is the only candidate to lead our country for over the next 4 years. The campaign intends for the spending to help break through. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Apologies about that. Don't know who was that. It was a random number anyway. So I'm going to repeat that again. So the campaign's principal manager, Quelling Day, said that more than voters learn about Harris, the more they'll come to understand that she is the only campaigner fit to lead our country over the next 4 years. The campaign tends to spend to help break through a crowded media environment early and make clear the choice of the stakes of this election for the voters and those who will decide, Fox said. And this is what they need to do. They need to keep bagging on and highlighting the dangers of what Trump will bring to the world, if not, and not just to America, but to the world if he becomes president. They need to continue to highlight the bad of Donald Trump, and they need to kind of highlight the good stuff of Kamala Harris if they want to break through to some undecided voters. But there will the hardest ones is those who are kind of embedded on Trump are very unlikely to sway their vote. But it's those who, there are still a large group of Americans who are undecided, and it's persuading those to vote for Harris is going to be a difficult choice. It is going to be a tough challenge for them. The Harris campaign and groups aligned with Democrats have aired nearly 110 million in television and digital ads so far this month, according to data from media tracking firm Aldi Impact. Trump and Republican ally groups, by comparison, spent nearly $73 million. The Harris campaign is responsible for 31.3 million of that spending. Trump's campaign has spent 20.3 million so far. But Republican allies have so far committed far more money to the ads at the end of the month, with 83.6 million planned so far. Harris and her allies have 25.8 million committed. The figures doesn't include the latest Harris campaign announcement. So, yeah, lots of money, obviously, that they throw in it. This is how they do things. They people throw lots of money towards these campaigns, and they have had some huge donations thrown their way ever since Harris' campaign launch. Some really big backers are really, really big backers to really get behind the Harris campaign and team. I mean, Trump still has his support. He still has his backers. But overall, Harris is getting the more money at the moment. She's getting the bigger crowds. She's getting everything at the moment. The momentum is in her favor at the moment. But that can change. If that can change that could change. If as long as they continue hitting the same things, and as long as the Trump campaign continues to stumble with things like J.D. Vance, and Trump continues to stumble with things, just keep highlighting the negatives, the Project 2025, the things that they said they were going to do, the things that the damage that they're going to cause. Just keep highlighting it, and cross fingers, perhaps America and more importantly the world will be safe from Donald Trump, because if Trump loses this, he's gone. He ain't going to be able to run again. He really will not be able to run again. He will be too old. He'll be too frail. And hopefully Republicans can come back to some kind of normality after this. Because that's what a lot of Republicans want. They don't want Trump. They don't want Trumpianism. They want to go back to what they were before. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not perfect in America in any way, shape or form. But Trump is just way too extreme. He really, really is, guys. So before we wrap things up, guys, I've got one more story for you guys. It has a story that's been going on. I haven't covered it I've only picked up on this only recently, a few days ago. But it is a major situation, a global situation that could potentially become worse if action is not taken. Like I said, just a reminder for those who have joined late on this premiere video, this was recorded on Thursday for reference. So the headline here from Reuters is that the World Health Organization declares mpox, mpox, a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years. So the World Health Organization on Wednesday declared that mpox, a global health emergency for the second time in 2 years, following an outbreak in viral infections in the Democratic Republic of Congo that spread to neighboring countries. An emergency committee meeting earlier on Wednesday to advise the WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus on whether the disease outbreak constitutes a public health emergency of international concern, or PHEIC. So, what started out as an infection in the Democratic Republic of Congo spread to other countries. It's entirely possible. If not careful, this disease could spread into Europe, into America, and how far out. So, if alarm bells aren't ringing, alarm bells should be ringing. If this is getting out of control in Africa. So, PHEIS status is World Health, WHO's highest level of alert, and aims to accelerate research, funding, international public health measures, and corporations to contain the disease. It is clear that coordinating international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives, says Tedros. Mpox can spread through close contact, usually mild. It is fatal in rare cases. It causes flu-like symptoms and pus filled lessons on the body. The outbreak in Congo began with the spread of an endemic strain known as Clade I, but a new variant, Clade IB, appears to spread more easily through routine close contact, including sexual contact. It has spread from Congo to neighboring countries, including Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, triggering the action from the WHO. The detection and rapid spread of the new clade of mpox in the eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries has not previously reported mpox, and the potential of further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying, Tedros has added. Tedros said on Wednesday that the WHO released $1.5 million in contingency funds and plans to release more in the coming days. WHO's response plan will require an initial $15 million, and the agency plans to appeal to donors for funding. Earlier this week, Africa's top public health body declared an mpox emergency for the continent after warning that the viral infection was spreading at an alarming rate, with more than 17,000 suspected cases and more than 5,500 deaths this year, mainly among children in Congo. 500 kids. Well, mainly kids, but still. Professor Dean Ongonga, chair of the WHO Mpox Emergency Committee, said all members unanimously agreed that the current upsurge of cases is an extraordinary event, with a record number of cases in Congo. Vaccines and behavior change help stop the spread when a different strain of Mpox spread globally. Priority among men who have sex with men, and WHO declared an emergency in 2022. In Congo, the transmission routes need further study. WHO said no vaccines are available yet, although efforts are underway to change that and work out who is best to target. The agency also appeals to countries with stockpiles to donate shots. So it's entirely possible that there'll be a lot more information by the time you guys hear more about this, but still, a major global could potentially become a global pandemic if not controlled and contained sustainably. So hopefully they will get to grips on this quickly, and less people and hopefully contain it. It's entirely. I hope that the world is paying attention to what the WHO are saying, because obviously it's entirely possible cases may appear in other places. Like I said, in America, Russia, in Asia, they could pop up in France, in the UK. So it's entirely possible they can, because there is always travel between continents. There's always people moving. So I think it's something that I hope that everyone is going to remain on alert about and deal with. It's unfortunate that diseases always tend to come from countries with the poorest. Some diseases always come with the poorest backgrounds because they're just not given well looked after. The Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the poorest nations on the planet because of the way it's been consistent problems after problems, conflicts and gang violence and whatnot's been taking place in that country. Like Haiti has been for a long time, it has suffered it's really quite a horrible situation for them, and I really hope someday fortunes will change for their country. I really hope so. But yeah, majority of those people who lost their lives already to it, and mainly children. Absolutely terrible, tragic loss. And my thoughts and prayers for everyone who's lost their children in that, lost those children to their diseases, and hopefully sorry about that, guys. Don't know why it turned off, but it did. But yeah, hopefully it'll get sorted soon, you guys. So just on that, guys, we've just reached the end of the World's News Round. What did you guys think of some of the stories that we covered today? What did you guys think? Did you guys enjoy it? Guys, reminder, if you are a YouTube member, you get emojis of these guys as well. So those are the perks you get for being a YouTube member. Just a reminder, guys, as well. The gang wants to say a massive thank you to everyone who's watched along. Thank you guys who have come along here today. What did you guys think of some of the stories that we covered? Let me know your thoughts about all of these and more in the comment section down below. Let me know your feedback. It would be greatly appreciated. If anyone left any super chats or gifted memberships, thank you very much if you have. If not, that's totally fine as well. Just thank you for watching. I really do appreciate you giving your time for watching and supporting my channel. It really does greatly appreciate. Guys, I want to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We are just 3.5 months away from the end of the year, so if we can achieve that, it would be a fantastic achievement. So, but only you guys can help me get there. So if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. It really does help support the channel. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe, guys. So just by hitting that subscribe button really does help. So thank you to everyone who does so. And if you hit the bell notification icon, you'll be notified when I upload videos and live streams, or when I go live as well. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but if you want to be notified, turn that bell icon on, turn it off and on. That will sometimes fix it as well. So guys, just before I head out, just have one final thing to let you guys know. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.